Hey guys, I hope you are doing well. Tonight I want us to go over the Letters of Birmingham, Letters from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr. The goal of today is to begin to just look at the inception, the exegesis, why Martin Luther King Jr. wrote this letter, what happened, and the circumstances behind it, and really to look at what's known as a rhetorical situation. What were the events that led up to King writing this letter? This is important for us because this is going to practice us thinking about the rhetorical triangle, the left part of my screen. We can also use this to practice and to look at soapstone again. But really, this is meaningful because this is thinking about these kinds of things, this kind of information is helpful to aim towards writing a very solid introduction paragraph, but also hitting that sophistication row, looking at how this rhetorical situation is able to guide us and to help us look at the rhetorical choices that authors write about. If you guys remember, the rhetorical triangle is the relationship between the speaker, the message with the speaker the author is writing, and then the audience who the speaker is writing to. It fits within the context. These pieces that we're reading are not in a vacuum. They exist they exist within their context. They exist within the occasion for why they have written, and then of course the purpose. Really general to look at whether an author is informing, persuading, or motivating, and then to be more specific from there. So if we're thinking about the letter from Birmingham Jail, there's a specific reason why this was written. There's a video in the PowerPoint for you guys to watch. Go ahead and watch that. That gives some good further context of what's happening. But there's some ideas in here that I want us to think about, because aiming towards that central idea, why he wants his audience to go towards the purpose, what he wants them to do. There's some interesting questions that we can think about, and these would be things that we would do in class if we had the opportunity. So there's some journal prompts. I want you to take a moment, pause the video, and read the journal prompts and think about how you would respond to this. Okay, I think that these are interesting ideas, especially the last one. When, if ever, is it acceptable to resist authority? When, if ever, is it acceptable to resist authority? This is the essential question that King is asking inside of this letter. When is the right time to be able to resist authority? When is the right time to pick up kind of the yoke of civil disobedience? So if we're thinking about this context, that's really what we want to aim towards today. So if we're thinking about this context, we are able to probably call this the occasion. If we remember soapstone, we could call this the rhetorical situation. If you were to watch any of the College Board videos, there's a couple of videos about rhetorical situation, what is kind of the exigence, that one word that I am seeing recently in AP circles. All of those are, what is the reason why this is created? Well, this was written in 1963, and King wrote this after he was arrested and he was put into solitary confinement. So he's in solitude. He wrote this while he's in prison, and he wrote it on just a continual sheet of paper, without any resources, without a chance to look up anything. He pulled it all from memory. What I love about this is he's sitting in jail, in prison. He's being denied his rights to a lawyer. He's been denied his rights to really anything in that jail in Birmingham. And he's writing this letter on demand. We kind of experienced that a little bit. When I asked you guys to write a timed write for 40 minutes, it's really stressful. And it's stressful to kind of get all your ideas out. And King is sitting in jail, and he's writing these letters. Who is he writing to? Well, this is one of the most interesting things. If we're thinking about the context, right, it's 1963, he's in solitude, he's writing without research. And if he's doing all of these things, it's his audience, this relationship with his audience that he's responding to. Let me ask you guys a question. I want you to think about this. How difficult is it to change someone's mind? Some people might find it really difficult to change minds. I know that my teenager finds it really difficult to change my wife and I's mind when he tries. And it's really hard to do that. At least it's hard to get people to change their mind and get them to make action. That's really hard. It's really hard also to get people to reconsider a position that they already had. And it's hard when it's in a vacuum, let alone it's really difficult when it's a hard time, when there's trauma, when there's tragedy, when people are demanding for rights and justice. The context of this further is this is the South. And it's in the middle of the civil rights era, and King is writing to a group of people that aren't on his side. They're also not against his side. They're actually in the middle. And so the people that he's writing to, and we get this in the very first couple of sentences in the letter, is he's writing to white, moderate pastors. And as he's writing to these white moderate pastors, he has to convince them that this is the time for justice, that this is the time to stand up for people that are having a difficult time standing up for themselves. So King writes this after he was arrested for having a peaceful protest, and he was arrested for having a public gathering without a permit. That kind of idea of phony charges to arrest someone. So he's sitting here and he's wondering, why are the people that have a say, why are the people that have a voice? In 2020, we might call it privilege. Why are these people that have a privilege of their voice being heard, why are they not standing up for us? And so the speaker, Martin Luther King Jr., is in this jail, and he's writing to this audience members of white moderate pastors, of clergymen, telling them this is the time. Now, we want to think about this, and the idea of interpretation is pretty limited, because King is writing this letter, and he's writing this letter, this long form essay, which for us is 9 pages, 2 column, double space. He's writing this letter to get to this particular point, right? Convincing them that they have to act. That when that famous phrase that comes from this, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so one of the reasons how we can appreciate this is the eloquence, the command of language. Another way that we can appreciate this is just what he has stored in the back of his mind and able to recall from memory, sitting in jail, writing from demand, and crafting this argument. Some things that we can think about as you're reading it is, again, this occasion, why King is writing this. Another thing that you can think about is, and we're going to look at this next week, the organization. King is crafting this in the canons of rhetoric. You can see it clearly defined. The introduction, the narration, oh my gosh, I don't have the things on my walls to tell us. The instruction, the organization, the narration, the confirmation, what he's going to tell us, the proof, the counter argument, and the conclusion. So we can think about this in terms of its organization. That's one thing we want to do. We want to think about the occasion. How is the occasion affecting him writing this essay? We want to think about the organization. How is the organization, the structure of this essay, helping him to achieve his purpose? And what's his purpose? Well, his purpose is to convince moderates to do something. And we want to think about that purpose. I'll kind of move this for you guys if you're taking some notes. We want to think about that purpose, right? It's to inform it's more than just to inform, to motivate, and to persuade. And so we want to be specific. How does he want to persuade them? What is he doing to try and to achieve that purpose, to achieve that goal that he ultimately has? Continue to look through these things, through the slides, kind of get some more information. This is a really key text for us in a couple different ways. The first way is King is a master preacher. If you listen to his speeches, he does such a good job of crafting his speech to move people and to motivate people. And so one is just to see a master at work, and he spent so much of his time to do this. Another reason why we're looking at this is how can we adopt this model for ourselves? How can we kind of think about this level of argumentation and guide us to write our own arguments? And the other thing is that if you guys decide to take AP Government next year, this is a seminal text that you're going to need to know and to remember going into AP Government. As we continue to look at this, we're going to practice kind of breaking up the organization. We're going to look at the introduction. We're going to look at the use of examples that he has. And there's some other videos that I want us to look at and to appreciate. If you guys are having trouble kind of gaining some focus in reading Letter from Birmingham Jail, I'll post in the playlist a YouTube for you guys to listen to it. But this is just some really great stuff that I'm excited that you guys are getting into. Again, we're looking at organization, we're looking at occasion, we're looking at audience. All of these things are going to help us to kind of see how they come together. We'll also look at tone to build out that soapstone. My friends, I hope you guys are doing well. If you have any questions, come into office hours. As always,